Hi everyone, Sponge here. Welcome to the third episode of the Oral English mini-series. When we talk about oral English practice, a common misconception is that it's all about imitating the pronunciation and the intonation. And don't be shy and speak as much as you can. But this puts too much emphasis on the output. But truly effective oral English practice covers both output and input and a whole lot more. And today we're going to talk about 3 phases to improve your oral English. The first phase is about input, which is reading aloud. Before I even began to learn simultaneous interpreting, a senior told me I should read aloud at least 20 minutes every day. Why is that? Because reading aloud is an excellent training for pronunciation and dictation and inhabiting the rhythm of the language. It develops skills in delivery and more specifically articulation, correct stress, and intonation patterns, and look ahead to achieve effective rhythm on long sentences as well. Now let's see how it's done step by step. There are 4 steps. First, take a text that is well written, structured, which most good non-fiction books are, and you haven't read it before. Why shouldn't we choose a text we haven't read before? Because the idea of reading aloud is to get into the skin to the author or the speaker. So most of the time when we read, we only produce sounds, but never focus on the ideas, or at least not as much as we're supposed to. And don't tell me you haven't. We read a lot and end up empty-headed. So we have to choose a text we haven't read before and read persuasively to understand and identify with the author's tone, structure, logic, emphasize, choice of words, and etc. until you feel that you could easily summarize or paraphrase the text in your own words and can increasingly anticipate what's coming. Do not just produce the sound of words, process it in your mind. And second, try to deliver it as professionally as possible, out loud, fluently, with good momentum. And third, make sure to highlight the keywords with your voice and pause in the right places. We've talked about where to pause in episode 2, which is to pause around conjunctions, prepositions, and complementizers, and check that out if you forget. And the links to that video, as well as other videos to be mentioned in this video, are in the description. And here is a great example of how to highlight keywords with your voice.
To be or not to be. That is the question.
Sorry. To be or not to be.
Try this. To be or not to be, that is the question.
Right.
To be or not to be, that is the question.
To be or not to be, that is the question.
To be or not to be, that is the question.
To be or not to be, that is the question.
To be or not to be, that is the question.
Skull.
To be or not to be, that is the question.
In this video, these celebrities give their own rendition of the famous homily quote, to be or not to be. You could render whatever you read with your voice, so you don't sound like an android. The reason why you want to do this is when you are interpreting, you're not only expected to deliver the messages, but the emotions as well.
We have to admit that although World War III was prevented thanks to the UN, the number of conflicts on the planet has not declined and enmity has not weakened. New and extremely acute challenges have emerged: international terrorism, drug trafficking, and climate change, illegal immigration, the growing gap between the rich and the poor. It is getting harder to address these and many other challenges from year to year.
See, this is what a top interpreter is like. His interpreter makes you feel you're listening to the speaker instead of an interpreter. Performance should be recorded and reviewed, which we'll talk about in a minute. And this reading exercise is best supervised by an 8-language work partner to avoid reinforcing bad habits. If you don't have one, that would be okay. Get yourself audiobooks or audio with the scripts will also do the trick. and make do with what you have. Fourth, when reading, also notice good expressions and devices used to persuade, entertain, dismiss, or highlight, and the most economical ways of saying things. The last point is extremely important for simultaneous interpreters, because in SI, every second is valuable, and you want to use minimal words to deliver messages. For example, when you see this sentence, 他整个学期都不好上课，只靠期末突击还能考第一. You could pause this video and see how you could efficiently render this in English, or how many words you could use to render. Okay, I hope you've had your own renditions, and perhaps it's something like this. He doesn't work hard for the whole semester, only works diligently before the final exam, and it comes to the top. What do you think? Here's another version. He would slack all semester, then cram at the last minute, and ace the final. Quite different, right? The first version have 20 words or 43 syllables. The second version also gets the message across, but with just 15 words of 31 syllables, about 30% or 2 seconds more efficient, which means you could save the mental energy that would otherwise be wasted on redundancy for processing incoming messages. So again, good expressions, devices used to persuade, entertain, dismiss, or highlight, and the most economic ways of saying things. Highlight these or note them down, and choose some of them later to adopt in your personal active vocabulary. And the second phase is also about input, which is memorization and recycling. Read a text sentence by sentence, repeating each sentence without looking at the text. Then analyze and memorize useful patterns, structures, and expressions to be recycled in your own interpretation. And this transferability in short-term memory as well. I haven't made a video on how to make your words active and what patterns to recycle. You could watch it for more detailed instructions. And the third phase is about output, which is repeating and shadowing. Please note, in this video, we only talk about shadowing as a way of imitating, but it's a very useful tool for interpreting as well, so it deserves its own video. So please follow my channel and stay tuned. We'll talk about shadowing through in episode 4. Back to the repeating and shadowing. This is a two-stage practice. Repeating and then shadowing. Let's look at stage 1 first, repeating. And this might be the part you're most familiar with if you're practiced imitating. And here is a step-by-step demonstration. There are 6 steps. Step 1, get your gears. For hardware, you will need a laptop and a headphone with a mic. And for software, you need a recording software. Here I would recommend Audacity and Goldwave for Windows, and QuickTime and GarageBand for Mac, or just use your smartphones. And finally, a piece of audio that you have carefully listened to and now understand fully. You should have finished studying the audio on the language side in previous phases. And step 2, imitate the audio sentence by sentence. Please start by imitating sentences before moving on to paragraphs or shadowing if you're a beginner. Paragraph imitation exhausts you sooner than you think and might bring too many mistakes at a time after the first attempt, which demotivates you. And step 3, record your imitation. We've said for 1,000 times that recording is the single most important part, not only for oral English, but for interpreting practices of all kinds. You have to monitor your output for retrospection. And step 4, check your output. Listen to your recording and check for 2 things. 1, mistakes such as mispronunciation and tenses and so on. And 2, things to improve. This is where you do correctly but not as professionally as the original audio does, like intonation. Step 5, repeat. After the first 4 steps, you have with you a piece of recording that perhaps you want a quick death after hearing, with mistakes you've made and things to correct, improve, and record over and over again until you're satisfied with stacking up your recordings against the original. Only then should you move on to the next sentence. Step 6, paragraph imitation. And this step is optional because it's replicated to shadowing to some extent, but there is a learning curve for shadowing at the first. Paragraph imitation could serve as a makeshift to shadowing. And this app is a great demonstration of how the 6 steps work. Try, play with 1 video, and you're good to go. The next stage, shadowing. Why is the next stage? If your pronunciation is messed up and you couldn't even repeat a single sentence well enough, your pronunciation will be all over the place when doing shadowing. So basics are very important, remember? And start with repeating single sentences, an easier way into shadowing. And here's how shadowing works. Listen to speech through earphones and follow with a very short lag. Stay in just one word or two behind the speaker. Repeat exactly what she says, and focusing on copying the speaker's accent, articulating connected speech naturally, and using idiomatic intonation and stress. And since you're shadowing a piece of audio that you have carefully listened to and now understand fully, and you can see what you're trying to copy, interact with the meaning. So 2 things to remember for this part. First, record yourself, obviously, and 2, shadowing with the script. As it is true to say that we cannot hear or apprehend what we do not know. And if we do not hear all the articles and prepositions and smaller sounds, we will not reproduce those sounds in our shadowing, and we'll lose much of the potential benefits. We're practicing speaking, not listening after all. And a mistake get the question, you only talk about studying and repeating and shadowing what's being given. I want to speak my own voice. Fair enough. And for those of you who need to practice impromptu speech or speaking tests for TOEFL or IELTS, you can go through these 5 steps. Step 1, get recording hardware and software, like we mentioned, and prepare a topic, be it a TOEFL or IELTS question or anything you want to talk about. Step 2, speak and record your production. If you are preparing for a test that allows you to think about for 10 seconds or so, you could do it too when recording. And step 3, transcribe or write down what you have just said for checking. You will write down everything as it is in your recording, including all the mistakes you've made and any unnatural pauses due to tension such as hums and ahs and too many fillers. Step 4, check, correct, and improve your transcription. Eliminate all errors like grammatic errors or ask someone for help if necessary. We read better than we write or speak because our passive vocabulary is much larger than the active one. So be confident you are definitely capable of improving the quality of your transcription. Change a few words, support it with more information, make it more logic, etc., etc. And the 5th and last step, repeat the revised transcription and record again until you are satisfied with the production. Then you can move on to the next topic. Okay, so much for the 3rd episode on how you should practice production. We'll talk about shadowing in the next episode and how to select materials in episode 5. Okay, thanks for watching. Please leave your questions in the comment and do the you know what as usual. I will see you next video.